Hello guys, this is Aiden from the Long Island Fishing Podcast, sponsored by the New York Angler. Today I'm here with Captain Joey Leggio from Fishing Long Island and Chasing Tail TV. How are you, Joey?
Buddy? I'm good. How are you today?
Everything's good.
Thank you for having me over here. It's a pretty cool little setup you got.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty cool. So today's topic is going to be spring striped bass fishing.
Yep.
The spring's right around the corner, almost a month and a couple of days away until the season opens up on the 15th. What would you say are the best ways to catch these stripers in the early spring season?
Well, it depends, what you're going to do. You want to stay inshore? You want to go into the ocean? So what I like to do, obviously, I have a smaller boat, so sometimes I got to pick and choose my days. But I'm a big fan of the back bay fishing. We have so many fish in our bay. It's really cool what we have there. And there's a lot of variety of fish, too, to catch. So what I like to do, it depends if I have kids on the boat. We go to the back bays, and we could do plug-in, bucktail-in, the rubber Kitech lures, all that style stuff we could use. Or we could always fish the bridges. Now, the Atlantic Beach Bridge. We've seen you there before.
Long Beach Bridge, Atlantic
Long Beach Bridge.
Bridge.
Yeah, any of those structures right there, especially with adjoining inlets. It's fantastic. There's a lot of fish there, so we can pull up any of those pylons over there, start a chum slick, and you could have, 5 fish days, 10 fish days. You could have 40 fish days there. And then sometimes it's mostly all shorts, but you know what? For the kids, it's action. And that's one way of doing it. Now, if you want to journey out into the ocean, then, it's your trolling in the spring. We do a lot of trolling, locate your fish. There's also usually, some jig bites. It depends what's in. Now it's been mostly the bigger fish. So the jig bite really is like not, 5 years ago in April, it was a crazy jig bite. It was 100 fish days. It was crazy, the amount of fish. And but that right now, it's more or less get out there, troll, locate those fish, and it's like a troll and mojos, spoons, that type of stuff.
So since you brought up fishing the bridges first, let's start with that one first.
Sure.
What are ways you can do that? I know people, fish artificial lures, clams. What do you do usually when you set up at the bridge?
Well, if I'm taking clients out, it's definitely a clam chum thing. It's very easy, and you don't want people casting all over the place. And I do a lot of stuff with the kids. So I would say clam chum is going to be my first choice. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll set them up. I'll get their odds. When you clam chum, you really want to walk the bait back, right? The kids, it's a little tough for them to do that. So I'll cast them out, get them to an area, and I'll just lock it up and let them hold their odds. If that's going on and the bite might be a little slow, waiting for them to get into the slick, I'll start casting a bucktail. Bucktail is very, very, very productive lure. Top that with the fat cow strips.
Yeah, jig strips.
Yeah, those jig strips are awesome. The eel tail is the bomb. They work really, really good. But sorry about that.
It's all good.
The bucktail's fantastic. You could use any type of the rubber lures now that's all over. The little storm shads work. Yeah. The paddle tails, the Kitechs, the Bass Pro makes them. There's a ton of companies making them right now. But any of those work really good on probably 3/4 to 1.5 ounce jig heads, some in that area. Al Gag makes the whippet fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Great lure. The whippet eel's a fantastic lure in current. That tail whips. It's a really good lure. I like to use the 1.5 on the whippet eel. So, yeah, that's basically it, though. But if you're going to start, clam chumming's probably going to be your best bet to answer that question.
So when you clam chum, you anchor up at the bridge, get some chum slick, clam guts in the water?
The bridge itself has 2 structures.
Okay.
There's the main bridge. Sorry about that. I'm a little congested. And then there's the old bridge.
So we're talking about the Atlantic Beach Bridge here.
Atlantic Beach Bridge we're talking about, yes. So Atlantic Beach Bridge has 2 structures. It depends on the tide that you're fishing. The outgoing tide, I like to anchor up on the old bridge. And that's on the east side of the bridge. Anchor up on that. Now, you'll also catch bottom fish. You'll catch sea bass, porgies, blackfish, triggerfish, fluke. There's a lot of life there, like I was saying before. And then on the, the incoming tide, you could fish on the west side of the bridge, and you're chumming into the structure, into those pylons and everything, and you're trying to draw those fish off that structure.
Okay.
So that's how I do it. Other people, they hook up to the bridge, which you're really not allowed to. You can probably get fined for it. If the Coast Guard pulls up or the Bay Constables, they're going to tell you to get off that bridge. It's posted everywhere. No anchoring to the bridge within 100 feet. And I believe that all started after, what happened with 9/11.
Yeah.
The whole terrorist thing.
So you talked about walking the bait back.
Yeah.
Explain that a little more for people that aren't really quite sure about what it means.
Sorry about that. Walking the bait you don't want to have a dead bait. Even though the bait is dead, you don't want a dead bait. You want to keep movement in that bait. And, so when I say walk the bait back, let's say we have a current where a 3-ounce weight's holding the bottom, right? I don't want that. I'm going to go to a 2. So now I have a 2-ounce weight. Every time I lift that rod up, I wish there was a camera so you could see it. Every time I lift the rod up, okay, you take that weight up with you. And now you let go of the spool. So you're fishing free spool too. So now that weight's going to flutter back and go back 3 to 5 feet, let's just say. Okay, so that's walking the bait back. Now, as that bait's walking in that chum slick, that's when the fish are going to come up. They're going to be maybe set on a certain part of the chum slick. They're working their way up the chum slick. You know, they're not necessarily going to be right at that chum, you know, block that you have next to your boat. So you're walking that bait back. So you lift, drop, let it sit for a second, thumb it. You know, you're still in free spool. So and lift up again, drop it. All you need to feel the slightest little tap tap. You know, it's a quick. They suck it up real fast. And as soon as you feel that, you set that hook. You don't wait because you're going to gut hook the fish. The second you feel it, I don't use circle hooks when clam chumming. Strictly 4.0 and 5.0 bait holders by Gamakatsu. That's what I'm using. Sorry. I got this congestion. Sorry about that. So anyhow, back to that. So you're walking that bait back. You get a hit, you know, and that bait's gone. Reel it up, bait it up. You're going to get hit again. That fish didn't go anywhere. They're still in that chum slick. Work it. You know, and then you'll get waves of fish. That will stop. Then all of a sudden another wave of fish will come in. And those could be fish just emptying out in the bay, heading back out to the ocean, and they find your chum slick and they settle and they'll pick away at all the chum particles that are coming out. But that's what I mean by walking back.
Okay, so when you clam at the bridge and, you know, you're walking the bait back, what rig do you like the best? Like a high-low rig, you know?
I make the rigs. It's simply, it's, you know, let's say you have 40-pound leader. So I'll have my sinker on the bottom with a, the perfection loop.
Okay.
So that will be my sinker up there. And then I'll come up approximately, I guess, about maybe a foot, sometimes a foot and a half. It depends if there's a lot of bottom dwellers, a lot of little sea bass pestering you. Come up a little higher, try to keep that bait a little bit off the bottom. And then I like to use anywhere from 4 to 5 feet of leader. I go a little bit longer with my leader. I like it to be kind of further away from the sinker. And then with that, I'm going to use probably 30-pound to 40-pound fluorocarbon. You know, it's definitely the fluorocarbon definitely by far works better than the straight mono, although you will catch on the mono, you know, but I just feel that you're going to get more strikes with the fluorocarbon. And that has the bait holder hook. And then there's also certain ways to rig the hook, too. Like, I like to leave a little piece of mono sticking out off the hook about an inch or so. And what that does, that's kind of like another part of a bait holder. So when I'm rigging that clam up, and also, let me go to the clam for a second. When you're fishing clams, you're either going to use the bellies, which is a bunch of just goop, and you thread it up the hooks. Okay, if you're using the tongue itself, well, it's actually the foot, I believe. You know that big hard part of the clam? I think it's the foot.
It's usually what I use when I go surf casting. Right,
so you take that clam, you're going to cut that skim of clam right in half. Okay, so you want the equal amounts on both sides. So now you start at the tip and you thread that hook. So now once you get to that part, you're going to slide it over the eye of the hook. And that piece of, I'm going to use this lollipop to show you real quick. So here's the eye of the hook, and that's that piece of mono I said. So you slide that bait over, now look what happens. That mono is acting as a bait holder. Mm-hmm. And that's going to hold that bait in place. You know, so you have, you know, once it balls up, bait, everything's presentation. With everything, with lures, bait, it's all about presentation. And if that bait looks like a ball, like a hunk of crap, you know, that's not as appealing. I'm not saying you're not going to get hit, you will, but it's not as appealing if it's everything streamlined. And then you have the lip of the clam, and that's fluttering in that current, just like a jig strip. You know, it's fluttering. That bait's walking back. It's like irresistible. So that's my rig that I could, you know, I use. I have videos. You could probably, you know, hyperlink one of my videos to it on Clam Chum, and you could see it.
So that would be on Fishing Long Island?
It's Chaisin Tail, that one.
Chaisin Tail TV.
Chaisin Tail TV, yeah, without the G. ChaisinTail TV.
And
a lot of people
both on YouTube?
Both YouTube pages, yep. You can always search my name, Joey Leggio, and there'll be my pages, the other people I've taken fishing, filmed with me, and, you know, you could see the bridge working it.
Yeah, there was a pretty cool video of you striped bass fishing with a Daiwa rep. I watched it since you're wearing the Daiwa sweatshirt. I thought about it. And you guys went trolling for striped bass.
Oh, that was with Chris, yeah.
Yeah. And
using the lead core.
Yeah, the lead core with the electric reels, which is pretty different. I didn't know that you can fish spoons without braid.
No, it is with braid.
Was it with braid?
That was with braid.
I'm sorry.
Without
mono. I didn't know you could fish spoons without mono.
That rig, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused here.
Yeah, I got confused.
That rig was lead core line, so it wasn't stainless or Monel. That was a lead core line. I'm not sure. That wasn't my setup. That was Chris's. And I did put a piece of mono. He did have a mono top shot on it.
Yeah, no, I mixed up my words. I meant you fished a spoon without mono. I'm sorry, without Monel or stainless.
Right, yes,
steel wire. I didn't know you could do that.
I fish it with braid.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. I have two Tony Maja setups that I use with the stainless wire.
Okay.
I like the stainless better than Monel, and I'll explain that why later. Then I have 2 other Daiwa setups. Daiwa makes a bunker spoon trolling rod as well, and that has 65-pound braid on that. And how I fish that is there's 2 ways. You could do it a 3-way, okay? And those rigs I make myself, and that's basically 15 feet by 5 feet, just like your standard Mojo. But I have on the bottom you could put like a 16-ounce Mojo, and on the back you could have your your spoon.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's one way.
I've seen pictures of those.
Yeah. Actually, it's in one of my videos. You'll see me using that rig. Another way I do it is I take a 16-ounce cigar weight. Okay, that's those long cylinder-looking weights. And I'll attach that to 15 to 20 feet a leader, and then the spoon goes from there. So there's 2 ways I'll troll with the braid. Now, my theory, I could be wrong, but my theory is that I weighed the Monel or the stainless. It's about a pound. So that's why I'm using 16-ounce weights to make up for that weight of the wire.
Okay.
Now, the braid is going to cut, probably better than the wire cuts through the water. So it's an average. I'm using the same calculations that you would with wire, but I'm using it with the braid. So I might be off 5 feet shallow. I might be off 5 feet deep, but I'm in that zone somewhere, and it's working. I'm catching fish on it. So, and it's a lot easier for the clients to reel a braid versus, you've done the wire.
It's a pain in the ass to reel in the wire with the bunker spoon.
It's a workout.
You can't put the boat in neutral. You got to keep going forward.
Yeah. That's a good point you said there, because if you put that boat in neutral, most of the times you're going to lose that fish.
Spoon's going to pop right out of its mouth.
Those spoons weigh a pound. I think Tony Maja spoon's actually over a pound, and you have all that weight and just making a big hole. And especially if you're pumping the rod back and forth, you're creating a massive injury in that fish, a big wound, and eventually that spoon's just going to fall out. But now, if you keep that boat in gear, you don't even need a bob on the hook. You could just keep, it's keeping pressure. It's solid pressure and just crank and crank. And it also makes it a little bit more forgiving for the guy that is pumping. Because at least if he drops that, at least you still have that boat in pressure. The boat in gear, you're going to have still the pressure on that line, on that fish. Very important, though, to keep that line as tight as possible. Any slack could result in a fish.
So when you're fishing Mojos, you can put the boat in neutral, though, correct?
It's the same thing. You could, but your best bet is keep it in the slowest idle possible.
Okay.
The Mojo is going to be a little bit more forgiving. But again, here's a Mojo right here. Look at the lead on this. Look at the weight. You have tremendous amount of weight here, and that's a huge hook. So, it's definitely better with this. If you're going to have to, take the boat out of gear, I would rather someone do it with that. But I always like to keep somewhat of a little bit of gear going.
Okay.
Even at the slightest bit, even if it's doing 1 knot, just something to keep that boat moving, to keep the lines tight.
So when you're trolling for striped bass, do you primarily stick with the spoons and Mojo rigs?
Well, my setup, it depends how many people I have on a boat. But now I've been doing 4 rods, which is a little crazy. So on my outrodders, I'll have 2 spoons.
Those are Tony Maja too, right?
I have both. I have Tony Majas, I have Reliables, and I have Real Innovations. It's a new one that just came out. Pretty cool stuff. So I have my 2 bunker spoon rods on those, okay? Either it's going to be braid or wire or 1-in-1, Those will be my spoons. And then I have on my middle rod right here, straight up and down, those are my 2 Mojo rods. So it's basically 4 lines. But on the Mojo rods, you might have 2 baits on it, a tandem. Mm-hmm. Or I might just have one single, 24 or a single, I think the other one's a 32, I forget. So I'll have that. Now, if I'm using wire, I just have 2 spoons out, 1 on each rod. If I'm using a braid, now I might have double rigs again. I might have the 5 feet with the 15 feet, setup, which you're gonna have a 16-ounce Mojo and then a spoon. So we've gotten double headers. It's common. You will get double headers, and a lot of times when you reel in a bass, you see the followers right behind it. So now if you have those followers and they see that Mojo hanging in front of the spoon, that's gonna get hit too. So it's pretty cool.
So do you like fishing the tandem Mojos and tandem rigs rather than just?
I do both. It depends on my mood. Yeah, it all depends on who you have on a boat too. The last, one of the last trips we did, I had the 4 rods out, and I was just doing 24s. So I had the 2 spoons and then 2 24 singles, and the fish were pouncing on them. They work great. The Mojo now is like the most simplest way probably to catch a striper. For someone that wants a troll versus the spoon. The spoon's a technique. It's all that rod. You got to watch it, and you got to constantly watch it, and you got to make changes. Depending on the current, the wind. The conditions are constantly changing, and if you're not making the changes to go with the tide or the wind, or even if the water's a little rougher, my boat's small, so when those waves are smashing in front of that boat, it's slowing me down. All of a sudden, I'm in, say I start in the morning, and it's flat calm, and I'm at whatever, 1,500 RPMs to get my speed, which is actually too fast. And all of a sudden now these waves are hitting me, I might have to go to 2,000, let's just say, which it isn't. That's way too fast. I'm just giving numbers as an example. You always got to make the changes needed for, the conditions.
So I know some people ask for like a good trolling speed. I work at Long Island Outdoorsman last year, and people would ask like, what's the right speed? What speed do I want to go? And like you said earlier, it's about the rod tip when you're trolling with spoons.
So I always go with a foundation speed. So that's where you start.
So what would that be?
I would say 3.2 to 3.5 knots, not miles per hour, knots. Start it there and then work it from there. You might be going too fast. You might be going too slow. Once you're at that foundation speed, watch the tip of your rod, and you can see if it's going if the spoon is spinning, the tip is going like this. When you have that nice rhythmic boom, 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 like a heartbeat, that's when you want it. You want to see that spoon working. If it's dead, you're not going fast enough. The spoon just like, la, la, whatever. You want to get that nice pump. If you're going too fast, sometimes the spoon will spin, So that's basically the speed you really want to be. And also, while we're talking about that, you don't want to really use two different spoons. So let's say you have a Tony Maja spoon, and you have like a TGT or a spoon fed, all those spoons that are out there. The Tony Maja spoon is probably the most technical spoon there is because you have to get the speed right. That's a slower moving speed to get that spoon to work perfect, to get that sweet spot. The TGT spoon, that's more of like a user-friendly spoon, and it works on any speed. So I would never mix those two spoons together because the Tony, to get that Tony spoon right, the Tony Maja spoon, let's say it's 3.2 and I got that spoon pumping beautiful. The TGT or the spoon fed's not going to work the same. They're required a little bit more speed to get to them to that sweet spot. So those spoons you could definitely troll at a faster speed. The Tony Maja, you definitely want to go a little bit slower on that spoon. But if I have Tony Maja spoons out, there's two Tony Maja spoons out. It will never be 1 and 1. It won't happen, But if I have a Tony 4 and a Tony 2, I'm talking about the number size, I believe you could do those two together. They're created the same, They're just that one's bigger and one's smaller. Those two you could definitely troll together. They're going to do the same speed, but it's always 2 4s or it'll be 2 whatever, whatever spoon I'm using. Or the reliable. Remember the old reliable spoons? So, I use those too. Those are nice spoons as well.
So a lot of people don't know where to start when it comes to depth of trolling. What would you say? Where do you usually start out, or is it based off of obviously where the bait is?
Bait, birds, structure. I like to troll around structure. That Rockaway reef you could troll, but you got to be careful. You don't want to stick your spoons in the bottom. You're going to lose them. And they're pretty expensive, $40 a pop.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to pop those off. But any type of structure, any bait readings, if you're just cruising around, look for the the marks on the machine, see where they're trolling. And also, actually, with that too, how many people make mistakes is when you troll, what's the first thing you want to do? Closest to the bottom, right? That's what everybody tells you. Get your spoon closest to the bottom, 300 feet if you're in 30 feet of water. Well, what if those fish are in 20 feet of water? Now you're below them, and if striped bass eat up, so you're below those fish. So if you're in 50 feet of water and you see those fish in 20 feet of water, maybe they're on bait, whatever, they're suspended right there, they're staying there, bring those spoons up. Only have 200 feet of wire out because now you're 20 feet. Now you put the spoon in their face. So that's one thing. Another thing, like it's a little bit of a science. You got to see where you're at, where these fish are, where's the bait. Those are all important factors. I love to troll the wall. So now you got to be careful too with the wall. The north side of the walls you could fish. The second you go over that wall, you're in federal water. You can't. You're not allowed to target striped bass in federal water.
So that's 3 miles out?
That's 3 miles, right. So the wall itself, which is the AB reef, it's a huge body of structure that stretches for whatever, 3/4 of a mile, whatever it is. I like to hug that and just troll that whole edge from east to west.
So what would that be, like 55, 60 feet of water?
Yeah, 55 feet of water. Yeah, 55 is a good spot right there. Yeah. And work that edge. And then when you turn, make sure you turn towards the land. Don't turn the other way. 2 reasons why. If you turn the other way, you're probably going to lose your spoon on the structure because it comes up 20 feet off the bottom, and you're going to be in federal waters. So it's like 2 no-nos right there.
Yeah, last season we were out trolling like right near that borderline, and you see a Coast Guard boat sitting like right at the line.
Yeah, he's looking. And you know why that's happening too? Because everybody's out there trolling, and they're getting on the radio, and they're saying, yo, I'm out in 70 feet. Get out here, killing the striped bass. Well, the Coast Guard knows 70 feet is federal waters, and they're going to come looking for you. So they're burning themselves, You're not supposed to target them out there, and everybody's guilty of doing it, But you're going to get, the fines are huge. They're not, it's not like, oh, yeah, here's a $50 ticket, a slap on the wrist. It's not like that. The fines are huge. and I really don't want to know what they are.
Yeah.
So, again, make those turns into the land and keep your boat. You know, all these machines now are so high tech. They all have the oh geez, what's it called now? The line of demarcation, whatever it's called, I forget. It's on the machine, so you can know exactly where you are, just standing inside of it. Troll, you could see the line clear on the machines, and it goes to the contour of the land. You know, just follow that line and troll that edge. But that's why I like to troll that structure right there. It's a big freaking piece of structure.
And striped bass are structure fish.
Yeah. Hey, look, there's blackfish there. There's porgies there. There's sea bass there. There's fluke, burgal. There's everything there. Why wouldn't they be there? You know,
exactly.
It's a restaurant. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. So before you were talking about baits, and I guess you just mentioned them again, what would you say? Are motors like bucktails? Do they imitate every bait, like the colors of the things you use to match the bait?
I have my
fish that are in
colors
the
I
area?
like. No, I mean, I like white. You know, I love white. Chartreuse yellow. Those are all great bucktails. At nighttime, I'll go wine or black, and it just casts a better shadow. Those lights are hanging off that bridge. You know, that black is so dense. It's a much bigger shadow it's going to show, whereas the white might fade away a little bit.
Okay.
So the darker the color at night, which is crazy. You know, who would think that? The darker the color at night is going to work better. You know, they have even like the lures. They have like the blurple lure, whatever it is. You know, it's a great nighttime lure.
What about with like bigger, pretty much it is a bucktail, a mojo, and spoons? What about the colors with those?
The spoons I like. Tony makes the multicolors really good. That's probably my favorite one. I had most fish on that one. That's good. White, you can't go wrong with white. I always use 2 different colors too.
Oh,
You want
do
to
you?
see, yeah, because say you're getting smacked on the white, you know, and not on the green, then you go 2 whites. But at least you have both out there. You know, you'll see if it's, you know, going, it's the green and yellow, or now it's the white, or then it's another fish on the green, you leave them both out. Who cares? Give them, you know, whatever. If you're constantly getting hit on that one spoon, boom, boom, pull the white spoon out and go with the hitting.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, just seems, it all depends on the day. Every day is different.
Before, when we were talking about a wire, you said you choose stainless steel over Monel.
I do, yeah. The reason why I said that, is it right if I put this here?
Oh yeah, it's all good.
It's okay. The reason why I go with the stainless is I've had issues with the Monel before. For some reason, sometimes the Monel gets like these little black spots on it. You know, nobody would really notice it unless you look at it. And when that happens, I notice the wire just parts out of nowhere. You'll just be laying out the line, and all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. Like, what the hell just happened? And there goes a $40 spoon. You know, so the stainless, that didn't really happen with me. You know, the Monel's a little bit more forgiving for a first-time user. The stainless can kink up a lot easier, but I'm used to it, so I've been doing it for years, so it just doesn't happen. I've 3 times now used a Monel that just, the line just parted out of nowhere, and every time I notice these little black spots in the wire itself. What I like to do is every year I go to any school field, and you know, at the football posts, I just tie a piece of mono around it, and I stretch out that whole entire, you know, rod. Every bit of line comes out of it. I take a can of WD-40 and a rag, and I spray the rag, and as I wind that line back in, I put the rag on it. Sometimes, if you don't have an Albright knot between the braid or the mono underneath going to your stainless, if it's a swivel, you're probably going to have to change that out because it gets corroded. If you have an Albright or whatever knot in it, that's fine. You know, you don't have to worry about that. And then I just slowly start turning the reel, getting all that wire back in. But as I'm doing that, the rag is holding the wire, you know, with the WD-40 in it. So it's cleaning all that wire. I'm putting tension on it to see if it's going to pop, you know. But and also, when you look at that rag, you'll see how black it is. There's so much, like, I don't know, soot, being the fireman, you know, soot. There's all that black, just residue crap that's on there. And it all comes off, you know, with that WD-40. Now your wire's ready, you know, for the following year to, you know, do it again.
Yeah, that's really good to know. I've had experience before. I was a lot younger, so I'm not sure if it was Monel or stainless. Well, younger than I already am. So we were trolling. I was letting out the line, and out of nowhere, it just went away. And I was like, "What?"
It's $40 down the drain.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it Monel or stainless?
Oh well, now that you say that, I bet it was Monel. I guess I was too young to think of it.
Yeah, it just parts out of nowhere. That's why I refuse to use the Monel. And it's a lot more money.
Mm-hmm. It is expensive.
It's a lot more money to fill a reel with Monel versus stainless.
So why do most people go, or not necessarily go with Monel, but say that Monel is better?
There's a couple reasons. You know, people like the Monel because it's softer. It's more forgiving. It's a little bit more denser, so they say it does get down a little deeper. Those are basically the reasons, you know. But you are going to spend more money to fill your reels. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
And to lose a lure really sucks.
It does suck.
But
so when the bait fish are really, you know, pushed up against the shore, like shallow water, can you troll that, or, you know, jigging?
You could. If the bait fish is put tight up against the shore, put the trolling gears away and just get a bunker snag and drop.
Okay.
You know, snag that bait and just hold it right there. If they have that bait pushed up on the shore, they're feeding. You know, and they're eating that bait. You don't have to troll, but if you want to troll, I would do mojos. Hold on a second. Sorry. One scenario, I had my buddy Dave out and his friend took him out trolling, and we're on the beach and we're in about 18 feet of water right here, right in front of your house, right off in Long Beach, and we had the spoons out and we're not catching anything on the spoons, nothing. You know, I'm like, what the hell? I'm marking the fish, I'm not getting anything. So I said, screw this. I take a tandem mojo, an 8.4 mojo, I put it in the water, and there's a video of it too. You can see the video. Within 1 second, the rod goes screaming, 25-pounder. I was like, oh, okay. Troll again, boom, another one. We ended up, I forget, I don't know if it was 6 bass, whatever. And then we started getting bluefish, but the bluefish were more or less going on the spoon. So I had one spoon out, one number 4, and I had the tandem mojo. And I want you to watch a video too after we do this interview.
Okay, yeah,
see
we
it.
can.
So I was like, wow, that was pretty weird. Like, why were they hitting this mojo, and why did they want the spoons? So back at the dock, we have our keepers, and I fillet them for the clients, and I'm cutting them open, and they're stacked. I mean, stacked. The bellies were filled with baby weakfish.
Weakfish?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now if you look at a weakfish, what does a weakfish look like? Mojo.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing as a mojo, the same size.
Profile-wise, yeah.
Yeah, so those big wide spoons, they weren't touching. They were on those mojos, and that was it. They were keen on that, and that's what they were going for. I mean, the weakfish. And that mojo looked just like that weakfish, whereas the spoon didn't. Now, let's say you used the, what is the number 3 spoon? That's more of a slimmer, you know, it's more slim, that spoon. So maybe that would have worked because it resembles more the weakfish, but they could not, you know, turn down that mojo. It was catching all the bass, every one that day came on the mojo, no bass on the spoon that day.
So what bait fish do we have available to us? So you just mentioned baby weakfish.
Baby
bunker.
weakfish, sure, bunker. But the baby weakfish, though, is really not a bait because it won't be legal size.
Oh, okay.
So you
Well, I
gotta be
mean,
careful.
not necessarily bait fish, just fish that striped bass feed on that you would want to, like, imitate would
Well,
be.
sea robins, a lot of times you'll find sea robins in the belly. Fluke is another one. Weakfish, porgies, bunker, bugles. Hey, the bass eat everything. You know, they're going to eat everything. So really anything. Spots are great if you can get a hold of them. You know, it's a big fish in Montauk. They're like $5-6 a pop. They're very
and
expensive.
I don't think you could catch them out there. That's why they're so expensive, right? Or can you?
Believe
catch
it or
them
not,
out there?
I've caught them before in a cast net. Throwing a cast net along the marshes, I've caught spot.
Well, here in the canals where we live here,
Yeah.
catch spot on little, like, bloodworms, cut them up,
Oh,
like
sure,
really
yeah.
small and like really small hooks, and throw them down right next to, like, the pilings
They're
and
right there.
stuff. Yeah,
Right,
and
that's
you
good.
catch spot.
You can make a lot of money with that, $6 a bait.
Yeah, if you can keep them alive all the way out to Montauk.
No, I don't buy them here. You know,
Will they?
we don't have them really. You know, the bait stores don't want to buy them because they're so expensive. I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, if those things died, it goes. You know, say they're paying $3 a bait. You know, so I'm sure that's why. But if you get them, they're great baits. Eels, you know, full time.
Yeah,
Love
eels
the eels
work.
by the bridge.
So eels are more of a fall bait, rather. So
For here, yeah, I would say it's more of a fall bait. I don't see many people using it. I like the bucktail really. I will bring some eels here and there, but it's mostly a bucktail thing for me. But if you're taking clients, it's an eel thing. Montauk, it's all the time.
Eels.
You know, daytime, nighttime. You can crush them, with eels on Montauk. But for here, it's like a fall nighttime thing. For my area, maybe Jones, Fire Island might be different. I don't know. But for Deb's Inlet, that's how I would do it. You know, fall, nighttime, tight to the structure. And that's it.
So diamond jigging, along the beaches is a very big thing too. Do you do that often? Here and there.
And not really if the bunker there, if the sand deals are there, if you see the rain bait, then yeah, I would definitely do that. Like this year, you were on the fish with the bonita run and everything. We had a lot of bonita, blues, and bass right on the beach.
Early, yeah.
And they were on that rain bait, smaller stuff. So then, yeah, like a 2-ounce diamond jig is definitely going to look more of the profile of that bait.
I think that's the A17 diamond jig, the
Something like
smallest
that,
one.
yeah. Use those. Hoagie, hoagie epoxy jig is sick if you want to catch those albacore and bonita.
It's kind of hard to cast them out from the shore, though. It's easier on the boats.
Yeah. The shore, I definitely
light.
want to use something a little heavier. If you could also use the 2-ounce offshore angler, that's the Bass Pro company. They make I think it's called a sling jig. It's a solid piece of lead, but man, that thing will go a mile when you cast it. It's just a solid piece of lead.
Really?
But the little albacore, love that.
So far we've went over trolling, clamming at the bridges, jigging from the beach, jigging. Yeah. So what other ways can you catch striped bass in the spring?
Back Bay, I love doing that. Like I said, that's all lures, swimming lures, yozoris.
Soft plastics.
Soft plastics are fantastic. They work great. Anything like that. Any marshes, any of those tidal creeks are awesome. Any type of structure in the back, just you get a nice high tide, nice sunny day, and it's slack and it starts pushing out, work all those marshes on all those tidal creeks. Because all that nutrients, that's all flushing out. And then once it gets into the Bay Area, those fish are usually just sitting right there. You could use surface lures and stuff. And you'll get some fish, and it's cool.
It is
smaller
really cool.
fish, but it's a lot of fun. Good action. Top water strikes are awesome.
They are.
Yeah.
Adrenaline. It's like a...
Another lure that I like to use in early spring, if we don't have the fish here yet, they're going to come to Raritan Bay first. And, obviously the water's a little warmer. It's a little bit shallower. So for fishing back there, the 2 ways we'll do it is obviously the Mojo. And then also now we use the swimming plugs. The Rapala makes an awesome, awesome plug that resembles a herring. It's got like a purple hue to it. It's fantastic. You put 2 of those back there, you're going to crush the fish. If they're there, they cannot resist that lure. It works.
And you troll
good.
that?
Yeah, you troll it on the braid.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe they're set for 20 feet. So just let out a certain amount of line. If you see it start digging, hitting the bottom, take a couple cranks up, get it off the bottom. But you're fishing back there, 18, 20 feet of water, sometimes even shallower, so maybe it might be a little harder with that lure. But, man, what a deadly little lure. It's fantastic. Check that out, too.
Yeah, definitely, I will.
Little Rapala, it's a little purple hue to it. I forget which one it is. I'll get you the number at the shop. I'll tell you which one it is. But
okay.
It's really good. We used it last year, and we were just crushing fish on it.
That's cool.
It worked really good.
Continue?
No, that's with braid, too. So
with braid.
Yeah, it's a little bit more forgiving for the fishermen to use that with the,
Would that be on, if it's a smaller lure, on lighter tackle? Like, what would you use?
You could use any rod, really,
And just troll those from the back of the boat?
My one friend that I fish with, Lloyd, he has it on a white little Terramar rod with a tiny little, I forget which reel he has. It's small, though, like smaller than a 14. It's really smaller reel.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's a blast with them. You get the fish, it rips line.
Mm-hmm.
He's having a good time. It basically looks like a fluke rod he's using.
Yeah, it's so like a...
That's fine, yeah. Yeah, that's a nice dive reel, actually.
Yeah, the Daiwa Saltiste,
that's
conventional. I have the Daiwa...
That's the BG.
4000 too, yeah.
That's a 4,000 or 35?
4,000.
Yeah, it's a pretty big reel of 4,000. I just ordered 2 of them, actually.
The BGs, they kind of run a little bigger than most others.
Yeah,
for the size comparison.
Yeah, you got to go like 1 or 2 sizes down to match that of a, regular, say, a Shimano 4000. The BG's a much bigger reel. Great reels. I love the Daiwa reels.
Really
They're
good.
awesome.
Do you do any surf casting, really? Do you find
really.
yourself not really?
I haven't surf casted in years. When I was a kid, I used to do it.
Yeah.
We used to go down to the beach. We used to use the little redfin lures, the mirror lures we would use. And that's before all these new lure companies came out. There was nothing that was really realistic looking. It was just an image, basically.
Yeah.
It was a white lure with a little red head on it. But, now the lures are awesome. Like, the SP minnows are awesome. There's so many cool, lures. There's lures that are so damn realistic looking. It's crazy. You'd think it is a fish.
Yeah, swimming baits and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, yeah, back in the day, bucktails, they used to use the old, was the Andros bucktail, I believe it was. It was a plain Jane bucktail. That's what it was. But that was, many years ago.
Yeah. So, do you ever fish in Montauk?
A little bit, yeah. If I go to Montauk, I go on my buddy's boats, and it's just an eel fish.
Really?
Eel or porgy.
Okay. Oh, so you use porgies with bait?
Yeah, porgies are really good. Those are the 2 baits that we use.
Live porgies?
Live porgies. Yeah, you porgy fish first.
Okay, yeah.
Catch your porgies. Make sure they're keepers.
A lot of porgies in Montauk.
Make sure they're keepers. Because they will board you, and if you have short porgies on that boat, you're going to get screwed, Yeah. Listen, it's a 9-inch porgy. Keep it. You don't. If it's an 8-inch, get rid of it. It's not worth. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Even when I'm fishing porgies over here, I don't keep 9-inch porgies. They're just too damn small. I try to do 10 and 11 definitely. I'll keep the 11s, but they're so damn small.
And you could use those as bait for bass and like big 11, 12, 13-inch porgies.
Yeah, a little trick with that. If you're gonna use a porgy, take a scissor and you cut the fins off. That the spines on top, dorsal fin. They're very they're like pins. They're very sharp little needles. Cut that right off. Cut those 2 fins off and then let it go. Do
you find it easier for the striped bass to eat it when you cut those tops off like that?
I believe so, yeah. I definitely think it's easier for them.
That's pretty cool.
It works cool, yeah. Snip it off. I do it bunker all the time. I always trim my bunker. I always take the bunker's motor off. So what I'll do is if I get a bunker, if I just snag and drop, obviously you're just leaving that bait on it. But if I bring it back and if I'm going to, fill my live well, throw the net, whatever, every bunker I take, put it right through the nostrils, the hook, and then I take the tail, I do 2 clips, and I take the tail off. Now you took the fish's motor away. So he's not going to run as fast.
People have different ways of hooking bunker. I know you could hook them through the nostrils, like you just said. There's like a little air bladder in the back. Do you find the nostrils to be the best way?
I like the nostrils the best way. Certain ways you hook it, the fish will swim either deeper or shallower.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think now because I always just fish the nostrils. If you hook it in like the anal fin, I think that's when it goes deeper down. It'll swim deeper if you hook it that way. And if you hook it in the top part, I think that's when it swims up. Because the fish now the tail's moving, it's pulling it. mainly when I do it, with drag and drifting, I'm usually just, sinkers down to the bottom, around the schools, and just through the nostrils. And that's it. If you're using circle hooks through the nostrils, a lot of times, I'm sure it's happened to you, the hook will come around and then hook itself back into the fish itself, to the bait, and you lose a lot of fish that way. The way to, overcome that is you buy these little glow beads.
Beads?
Little glow beads by Owner. The little rubber beads are really small. So you take that and put that on your circle hook. Now put that hook through the nose of the bait, and that bead now stops it. So as that goes, that little rubber bead that you just put on the base of that hook, it won't allow the hook to go any further. So it can't spin around in circle and go back into that bait.
That's good to know. Yeah, I didn't know
little
that
tricks.
they made those.
There's a ton of little tricks you could do just to,
so
put it in your favor.
Do you find yourself when you run into big schools of bunker, like, do you troll through them, or do you want to snag and drop?
If you troll through them, you're probably going to get beat up if there's people out there. You don't want, if there's people out there, respect them. Do not troll through that school, And if there's schools out there, don't get on someone's school already. If someone's snagging, don't be throwing your snags the opposite direction towards that guy's boat. Like, there's other schools out there. Find them, Take the time and just look. Don't just be like, oh, that guy found them. Let me run to him. And, it's disrespectful, and it pisses people off. And last year, they had the police boats out there because two guys got into a crazy fight over something with the bait. I don't remember what it was. I just heard it on the radio. But, like, just be respectful of the other fishermen, And if you want to go over, say, hey, guy, do you mind if I snag a couple, pieces? Most guys will probably say, sure, go ahead, snag a couple. But, get the bait, snag them. Either you're going to fill your live well, or you're just going to snag and drop. Those bait runner reels are awesome for that. That's basically it, really.
I just had a thought.
Oh, you asked me trolling through? You're trolling through the spoon. Yeah. If you're by yourself, you're out there on a weekday, there's nobody out there. If you want to take that mojo and troll it right through that bunker school, you're probably going to get hit if there's fish. Because what happens with that is your boat's going through that school, and now these two lures come whipping through it. Now your boat and those lures together, that school's in a tight ball like this. Now what happens is they split apart. And then what comes through that middle is that mojo. It's the only bait there right now. So those bass are seeing that, like, oh, look at this. There's a weak bait. It's an injured bait. He's by himself, and they're going to pounce on it. So it does work. But again, you got to pick the right days to do that. You got to be by yourself. And you can't do it with other people around. They'll throw sinkers at your boat. If someone's on a school of bait, you come whipping through, like, coming through, and you rip, you just destroy that school, you split it apart, people are going to be really mad at you, and you're probably going to have a problem.
This last year, we marked some really big schools. So last fall, we didn't do very good. I didn't go out that much last fall, but every time that we did, we would go from 50 feet of water, 49, 51, and then it would go 25 out of nowhere. Just bait.
Oh, the bait. Okay.
Just bait. And every time we would troll through one of those, you get hit, both rods, just down. So when you find those schools of bass and bunker, it's almost inevitable for you to get hit.
Yeah, if you find them deep like that, then you could drive over them. It's fine because it's not on the surface where people are knowing it there.
Yeah.
If you see them on your machine, just keep going. Because like I said, as you go through that school, you're parting that bait. And what's left in the middle is your two mojos. And you're going to get hit if there's bass on the school.
Yeah.
They see that bait coming through it. It's to them, it's an injured, it's a sole bait. It's by itself. It's just solo. It's it. They're going to hit it. It's less work for them. They're like trying to pick out. There's a billion baits in a circle. They're going to try to get that weak one. Or swim through with their mouth open and grab one. But now you just did the work for them. You just drove through that school splits. Here's two baits come whipping through the middle. And everybody knows how great a mojo looks in the water. It's irresistible. That tail's whipping like crazy. There might be some flash on the mojo, whatever it may be. Boom, fish on.
What's your favorite tackle when you're trolling? For either we'll do one with spoon and then one with a mojo. What's your favorite setup?
Well, I do a lot of stuff with Daiwa now. So I have the Daiwa bunker spoon rods are great. I have that on the line counters, and that's the now is it the Saltis or the Saltique? I forget which one it is. And I have that with the line count, and that's the braid setups I use. They work really good. For the mojos, I have the Daiwa rods, and I have the line counters on that one, but I have the graphite ones, and that one's the I forget. Shame on me, right? I believe that was the that might be the Saltis, the other might be the Saltique. I forget. I'll get you the exact model numbers and everything. I just forget. And those are basically the setups I'm using now. Those 4 rods.
What braid do you use? Do you find a difference?
I use the J braid.
Okay.
And they have a metered braid. It's multicolor, and I'm using that.
What pound test?
65.
65?
65
Okay.
for the trolling, yeah. And, with that braid, you actually don't even need the line counter reels because every...
every 10 feet or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It might be every 3 yards or something like that it changes colors, Or
That's
meters,
really
every 3
useful.
meters, I forget. Each braid is different, too. So you got to find out. Like, say, tough line might be every 50 feet it changes color, and J braid might be every 3, meters it changes color. So I'll read the label on it and just see what it is. And, you could write it down on the rods. I forget. 'Cause once I start fishing, and then you remember because you've seen it in front of your face every second. But, in the off season, I forget what all. So I got to look at everything again. But definitely look at each line which you're using. Each, they're all different. They're not all the same. They measure differently. But the colored line is great. You don't need the line counter. But you also got to pay attention. If you look away for a second, you're letting out that line out. Like, oh, shit, what color was I just up to?
Yeah.
You got to reel it again and start over. Another way to do it is, say you just have like this reel right here with a straight green braid on it. You want a mojo troll. You can still mojo troll. But a lot of guys will do is that they'll just let it out with the boat and gear, let it hit the bottom. They're going to thumb it. The lure's going to come up, right? Then they'll get to a certain point where it's staying, and they drop it down again, let it hit the bottom again, and then they'll lock up. And that's another way people are trolling and catching
Usually
fish.
that's what we do.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. You'll get it in the area where the fish are, And if you're deeper water, maybe you have to do that 3 times to get it down, deeper. But again, there's all different size mojos. It's a whole nother arsenal of lures you purchase now. There's, 34 ounce, 24 ounce, 20 ounce, 16, 8, 4. There's a bazillion different heads you can get. This happens to be a wobble head, this one, that you have in your room here. So that's going to swim a little bit like this. Then there's the, the Smiling Bill or Smiling Sam, whatever, the Smiling Bill heads.
Yeah, kind of like the Smiling Bill bucktails.
Exactly. Yeah, there's those heads. There's bullet heads, jet heads, whatever. Not jet head, bullet head, like.
Yeah.
There's
very
so
pointed, like
different.
an arrowhead almost.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of different ones. There's a whole bunch of different people making them. Dante's making a product. Tony Maj is making a product. What is it? Rock Candy. Whatever.
Yeah, Rockfish Candy.
Yeah, they're making them. There's so many different people making these mojos now.
Which
John
one do
Baggio. I saw you just had some Asgard jigs you just bought at the show.
Yeah.
John Baggio's making stuff. Yep. A lot of people are making it.
Yeah. So which ones do you usually go with? Do you have a couple or do you
I have
stick
a
to?
bunch of different brands. You know what? When you're doing charters, you have to have everything on the boat. Because if they're on a certain thing that day and you don't have it, guess who looks like an asshole? You do. So you got to make sure you have every spoon on that boat. You got to make sure you have every mojo on that boat, every bit of tackle. And, I'm on a 23-foot maritime skiff, so where do I put all this stuff? So, yeah, I have an assortment of everything. All different mojos, all different lead sizes, with that. But, it depends. They're all good. You can't say one's better than the other. They're all good. They all work. Each one swims different. Tony Maj will swim a little different than the Blue Waters, and they're just whatever. And also they're all, certain ones are tied a certain way. I like to have a little flash of mine, which is nice, a little sparkle. I think any more attractive, it helps. My spoons, all my spoons, I'll show them to you one day if you ever come by. They're all custom made. I change everything on them. I put flash tape on them. I add second hooks on them. I had treble hooks. On all my Tony Maj spoons, they all had the trebles on them. And I put swivels
the stinger
on them too.
hooks.
Yeah, well, you could do the double stinger. Tony has the double stinger hook on his. I was doing trebles, we did the tournaments with them. I just want to have that little extra
Assurance.
security. Yeah. But also when you're doing those extra stinger hooks, it's always good to put a swivel on it. And so you just picture this thing right here as a spoon. Can't get it off.
I have some spoons. I just don't have them here. They're at my uncle's boat.
Oh, yeah. So let's say this is your spoon, right? And now you have a hook on here, and you have another hook right on that. The reason why you want to use that swivel on there, if this spoon starts going like this, look what it could do. See how that plastic's, it's pulling that hook out. So now if you have a swivel, it just spins. And you're not doing that. You're not getting that leverage to rip that hook out of the fish's face.
It makes sense.
Yeah, so it's always good to have a swivel on those if you're going to add the extra hooks and not just straight on.
So that's very good. You mentioned your charters. Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you do exactly?
Just do mostly inshore stuff, and occasionally I'll go out to the ocean and do it. But select crew, they got to know what they're getting into. It's a 23-foot maritime skiff boat. There's no toilet in there. You're going in a bucket, 5-gallon bucket. So basically all inshore, all bay fishing, back bay fishing, casting, chumming bridges, anything like that. Fishing the inlets. Go out to the oceans. There's all the wreck fish we could do. Anything, sea bass, porgies, blackfish, and of course trolling stripers as well. That's basically it. I very rarely run down to Raritan on that boat. I'll do for a select couple guys because it's a hike, and it's always a small boat. And if it turns up and you're 20 miles out your inlet, kind of sucks to come back in a small boat.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but that's basically it. They're all inshore mostly. 1 to 4 passengers. It's fun. It's like a nice, private little, boat.
Yeah.
You get to cater to the guys directly, and guys enjoy it. It's good.
It's pretty cool.
A lot of kids.
So, when do you start this year? When do you think you're gonna start? Is it differ?
Yeah. Well, April's been like an extension of the winter lately. It really hasn't. We've been having pretty crappy April, so hopefully this April's gonna be a little better. It seems like it's going that
pretty
direction.
Warm.
Yeah, it seems like it's going that direction. So if it does, I'll start in April.
Okay.
But yeah, as soon as I you listen, read, internet. As soon as one person catches a fish on the internet, it's going all over the internet, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
It's Instagram. One guy catches a fish in red, and you know what the fish are there because the next second, and I'm guilty of it too. I put them on too, but you'll see a picture up, and you'll know that something's going on. So you go explore and see. I got to get you out in the back bay. It's fun. You're right here. You're my neighbor.
Yeah, definitely.
You just jump out with me. It's fun. You get a lot of fish back there too.
Yeah, me and Cole went. Cole Abraham from Bay Park.
I'm supposed to take him. He's always asking me to take him. He's a good kid, Cole. I like him.
Yeah, so we went in the back bays. We tried both clamming and fishing the bucktails with the fat cow jig strips in the back bays.
What size we using?
Of the jig strips?
Well, the jig strips, the bucktails, yeah.
Oof, light.
Yeah, you got to use
really
like halves,
half
three quarters.
Ounce?
Halves
Yeah,
and 3/4.
Might have even been going a little heavier than that, like one.
Yeah, you can still use a 1, but don't go more than a 1. Yeah, one's gonna be your heaviest. You want to use 1/2 ounce, 3/4. Now we field tested that. Mike and Todd came on the boat with me, and we needed a smaller strip, so we took the 5.5s and we cut them down.
And now they sell.
And now
the small
because they were it's incredible on a small bucktail. You needed that smaller strip, so we did it and we worked. We caught a ton of fish that day, and we got to do this now. So now they made the 3.5s.
Yeah, it's pretty
awesome.
That's
a great product. Mike and Todd,
strips,
they did a really good job on that product. It's very strong.
It's a very good company too. Very nice people.
Very cool
very
guys.
Good people.
They'll be out with me again this spring. They're good dudes, man.
Yeah, I'm excited this year to go out and make some videos and stuff.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, they'll be on a boat. You can jump on anytime you want.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they'll come out.
Do you also? I think Chris Ludwig might have mentioned this. You do charters on other people's boats?
Yeah, I do guided trips too. If you say you just got yourself a boat, whatever you want, someone to show you the ways, and even sometimes people hire me just to show them the waterways. Not even fishing. They don't know how to get out the inlet. I had one guy one day hire me. He just wanted to know where the bars were. So I took him to Island Park. I took him to Freeport. Took him to all the places. Showed him where all the bars were to hang out. And he was loving life. Which beaches to go to, short beach, this beach. Where to go tubing and stuff. He just wanted to learn. How to go from one inlet to the next inlet. So, but mostly though, when I get clients, it's taking them out, showing them, where to fish, how to fish. And then they'll go out and they'll buy tackle and take them to the stores. What should I get? What would you recommend? It's cool, It's I really enjoy it a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do that a lot actually.
I feel like I know a lot of people that have boats and don't fish but want to learn how to. So that would be like a perfect service for those people.
Right, and I don't charge a lot of money for that. It's very cheap. And it's just a good day of fishing too. You're better off spending a little money to go out with somebody 1 or 2 times than go out there 10 times and not catch anything, because you're going to spend more money on bait, on this, on that, and you're not doing it right. You could learn very quickly. I could take you out one time, and show you how to do a certain thing, like troll and whatever. He's like, all right, cool. Next day you go out. Actually, my one guy that I took out, showed him how to do it. He went out the next day and got a 48-pounder,
really?
On his own. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he sent me the picture, like, dude, that is so cool. That makes me feel good too.
Yeah.
That really, I love that.
48 pounders of cow.
I love seeing my clients.
That's a once-in-a-lifetime fish for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. It's so cool. To see that. And when they send me the pictures, like, dude, thanks so much. I'm like, awesome. It's a good feeling. And I also make a lot of friends too now. It's like these guys are clients and now my buddies. We talk on the phone, and I'm not one of those guys. Like, I'm a network, as long as you're cool with me and we share. It's not a one-way road. We share information back and forth too. I don't like the people that are like, oh yeah, where you fishing? You give them the information, and then the next day they're on the fish. And you're like, hey, dude, where you fishing? And
yeah.
They're not calling you back. Like, okay, dude, it's not a one-way road. This is a two-way road, and that's why I have no problem helping people out. Been doing it my whole life, but it's always got to be a two-way road.
Yeah, the biggest fish that I've gotten so far was this last 2018 spring. I got a 42-pounder.
That's a big
on
fish.
Mojo.
It's a nice one, yeah.
Yeah,
especially
broke
on
the
a
net.
Mojo.
It was fun.
Yeah, I think I saw a video of that. Did I see a video of one? I know you had one big one in the net.
Yeah, there was a big one. I didn't actually. That was the day I decided not to bring the GoPro. I caught the 42-pounder. We were going out. It was actually usually we go in the mornings, but this time it was later towards the evening. And I was like, no, let me not bring the GoPro. And then that day we maxed out. Caught a bunch of fish. Really cool. this was the time of year. I think it was sometime in May.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as soon as the sun started going down, there was no bites all afternoon, and then as soon as the sun started to set, the bite turned on.
Yeah, that was a lot this spring, and it was a lot that happened. You had the early morning, then it was dead, and then you had the late afternoon. You were catching fish into the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that happened a lot this year.
There were big schools of bunker balled up, and you actually saw some striped bass go airborne. You know, after
that's
the bunker.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're like doing that feed right before the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
I heard a lot of that.
times of day, we didn't get into that really. Is it vary? Kind of like how last spring.
I
you know,
love
nights?
the tide change. I like to be out there an hour before, through the tide change, an hour after. I always feel those fish are going to bite, especially with the bunker. You know, I always feel they're going to bite in that little period of time. So that's 2.5 hours, let's just say, 3 hours. That time period I think is great. But always early morning, first light, you always have a good shot of getting a fish, and always, like we just said, right as it's about to get dark, get out there, troll, into the dark, and you're probably done after that.
Does it matter what tide it's going into, if it's going from the incoming to outgoing or outgoing to incoming?
I just think it's a change of the tides. And again, every year could be different. You going out there, one of the mistakes I made, and I'll tell you as a young guy what you should do is you should log. I never logged. I wish I did.
Like
I never
mark
did.
spots?
Just log your trips, everyday trips. They bought on this tide. They bid on this tide. It was sunny.
Kind of like the John Skinner method.
Basically, yeah. What the water temp was that day. Write everything down. Because these fish, the repetition, they'll do the same thing the following year. So you're like, oh man, I didn't catch the fish over here. Let me look at my log book. And it's, and you go to those spots. And, Nicky, he told me, like Nicky No Time told me to, log, and he does it. He'll go back by his books and he'll put himself on the fish. Nicky's an awesome captain, and I wish I did it, but I never did it. So now I'll write some notes in my calendars and stuff. But for you, for such a young guy, 17 years old,
yeah,
do it now, because that's a whole life long of information.
That's definitely pretty cool. The GoPro just died,
yeah, I saw
which
that.
which is all good,
Now it's about to blow up. It's me.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. But it's all good. This is where the audio is coming from anyway. It's a podcast, so we could continue on for however long we need. I don't even know what's going on right now.
It's making all sorts of noises.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut it off.
It's probably telling me to shut up because I'm talking too much.
Nah. Thing has a mind of its own.
What kind of boat you got? Do you have a boat?
So I don't have my own boat. My uncles both have boats. One of them's a 18 or 19 foot Mako. The other one's like a 23 foot cobia.
Yeah, so that 23 foot cobia in the springtime, April, when the bass bite starts, go to Raritan Bay.
Raritan Bay?
Go right to Raritan Bay.
So where? I've never heard of that. Where is it?
So for Raritan Bay, coming out of our inlet, you're just going to take the coast all the way down. You're going to cross, the channels by the oh my God, I said Atlantic Beach Bridge, the Verrazano Bridge. And then once you cross over to Verrazano, you're going to start getting into the Raritan Bay area, And it's kind of like here's Jersey, here's Staten Island, and it just comes in like a triangle like this. Once you get into the area, if the bite's on, you're going to see the boats. There's going to be a ton of boats there. And there's certain areas I like to fish in that area. You just troll those either mojos or get those little swimming plugs. That's going to be your best bet in the spring, early spring. So
smaller profile baits?
Yeah, the little 20-foot depth swim plugs, the Rapala ones. Do those. That's probably, like I said, the water's going to be warmer back there.
And this is the early spring?
Yeah, that's your first. That's what's going to come first. But it's a little bit of a hike. You're going to run probably 20 miles to get to those fish from our inlet.
So you just take the coast all the way, what is this, west?
You could take the coast, yeah. You could take the coast all the way, come across the Breezy Point Jetty. You have the Coney Island Flats, Verrazano Bridge, and then you got Staten Island. Once you get to Staten Island, that's the start of Raritan Bay now. You're going in there.
Okay.
Again, you'll see the boats. There's times you can't even troll in there because there's a bazillion boats. Everybody's zigzagging, cutting your lines. It gets a little hectic back there at times. But there's fish back there.
Yeah. I don't know how true this is, but I heard from someone yesterday, actually, that there's been reports of some stripers in New Jersey from the surf.
I believe it. The fishermen just reported that the first one was caught, the first keeper. But again, South Jersey,
it takes a while for them to get up
away.
Yeah.
It's maybe the water's a lot warmer. Who knows? I don't really know. I don't go to South Jersey to fish, but
yeah, me neither.
They're coming there first. They got to come up that coast this way to us, and then the other one's gonna be dumping out under the Verrazano.
Yeah, I want to try some different stuff this year, just such as Montauk, maybe the canal, Cape Cod Canal.
I've done that. Yeah, that's a pretty cool fishery.
Yeah, it's definitely.
If you like surf
cool.
fishing, it's pretty cool. It rips the current through there. Rips.
So we didn't really get into surf fishing that much, and maybe just I could talk briefly about it, just because. So I live here in a beach community, and it's very easy, especially because I don't have a boat, for me just to go to the beach and, throw diamond jigs or even just throw clams.
Yeah.
Really easy. I caught my biggest fish from the surf was on clams, I think at 18 pound, 36, 37-inch fish. So, no, not 37, maybe 35, 36-inch fish. This was
That's
2
a
years
respectful
ago.
fish from the beach. That's fun, especially
Yeah.
when you can walk across the street and go fishing.
Definitely.
That's
Yeah,
great.
it's very cool. So you could throw kind of like all the same things we were talking about. Bucktails, diamond jigs, tins, those little swimming plugs. All of that stuff works great from the beach as well as, the super strike lures.
Yeah, any of those bottleneck poppers are killer on the beach. And again, it's a surface strike. It's awesome. But, pencils, those are awesome. What's that? The needlefish?
Needlefish lures, yeah.
It's a pencil popper I'm talking about.
Pencil poppers,
Yeah.
needlefish, darters.
Yeah, I like any type of walk the dog style lures.
That
Those are
works
great.
good. Yeah, I have a couple of new small lures that I got that I'm going to use in the back bays that kind of you could really, like the tsunami, it was a storm. The storm chug bug. It's
Oh,
kinda
yeah.
the top
It's got a little
water,
rattle
very
in it.
light,
It's
yeah.
got some mylar on the tail. I know that lure. Yeah, that works great, especially in the back bays over here. Yeah, you'll
Flat
do
water,
fine with
it
that.
makes
Yep.
a lot of, commotion, sound.
Yes, use that lure on the tidal creeks, on that high tide.
Okay.
They'll crush that lure. Yeah, it's a good lure. It makes noise. It's got the rattles. It's got the flash. Yeah, it's a good little lure.
Definitely. So we pretty much went over almost everything when it comes to spring striped bass fishing. It's super close, a month.
Yeah.
If even that, the fish are going to be here, striped bass, and then the bluefish, spring tog this year, which I want to get out and go.
Well, that all depends on the weather, though. You need the water temps. Last year, we didn't have the water temps. You want to know when those fish bit?
Late.
When they close the season, that's when they start biting it. But, if it stays like this,
What is it today, 40?
It was pretty warm today, but it felt cold because of the wind. You had a lot of wind, and it was pretty chilly, the wind. But, yeah, I would say 40, But you get a couple of these 50, 60-degree days, get that water a little warmer. It might be, you might have an early season. If not, it's like May.
Yeah.
It's
May
crazy.
and June is going to be the striped bass.
Yeah, May. But it always like that Memorial Day weekend, you always have a good body of fish that comes in by us. It seems it's always, in that whole week span of that Memorial Day weekend, there's some big fish that come in here.
It's fantastic.
In our inlet.
I'm excited.
Yeah, no, they'll be there. I'll get you out, man. You come out with me. Good time, man.
Definitely, and I can help you out with your videos. And,
definitely, yeah. Sure, we have to do some
it'll help me
editing.
out. Yeah, all that type of stuff. I'm decent at. I just want to get out there and make content, continue with these podcasts and
That's good
videos and stuff.
It's great. Just one more thing. I really respect you because you're so young, and I love to see. Again, I have my son myself. I have a little 5-year-old. I love